Hi, everyone. I'm Shelly with Family Houston, and today we're going to be talking about the uncomfortable topic of divorce. I know we don't want to talk about this, but it's important nonetheless, and something that over 2 million people experience in the US each year. So today I have with us Pierre Matta, who is a senior clinician with Family Houston. Hi, Pierre.
I
Thanks for joining us today. He is going to be answering some questions about divorce, maybe offering a little bit of advice. And if you guys have any questions, he'll be taking those. So if you have questions, feel free to comment below and we'll make sure to get those answered. And if you want to message them privately, you can email us at family@familyhouston.org and we'll make sure to get those answered. So with that being said, Pierre, thanks for joining me today to talk about this difficult topic, but important and relevant nonetheless. So Pierre, what are the most common reasons for divorce that you see?
I kind of wanted to comment on what's going on in our country, with the pandemic, and since the beginning of the pandemic, Shelley, there's been an alarming increase in the number of couples who are filing for divorce. And so, in my clinical opinion, I think the health crisis has revealed the vulnerabilities in many couple relationships. And you think about it, the move from to work from home, sheltering in place, you got the limited social interaction, limited social activities. All of these changes have been obviously stressful for everyone. And you think about it, it's very easy to get caught up in a routine, work, family responsibilities, social activities. And so I think that couples can miss the signs of deeper marital issues. Well, in my opinion, the pandemic has changed all that. And so because of that, we're seeing an increase in the filing for divorce in our country. And some of the reasons, I think there are reasons that are generally reasons for people considering divorce. But again, I think these have kind of risen to the surface because of the pandemic. So the first I would say would be what I would consider is loss of love and incompatibility. And so people, often say, well, I don't love my partner anymore. I care for them, I love them, but I'm not in love with them, is what they say. And so this is probably one of the main reasons why people would seek a divorce. Also, is the sense that that people are not compatible, that you're not compatible with your partner. And there's that saying, the opposites attract. Well, what we find very often in marriage is opposites attack. And so it's actually better. There is actually research that shows the more similarities a couple has, the more likely they're going to have a long-term relationship. The marriage is going to go the distance. So that's one reason. Another reason is, I would say, long-standing and unresolved conflicts. So if you and your partner continue to have the same arguments, and you feel like nothing is changing and your partner is not changing, and you cannot seem to come to any kind of agreement around conflicts, that can be a precipitator to divorce. Obviously, if there's a breakdown in marital functioning, so poor communication or no communication would be something breaking down, as well as a boundary violation. And everybody knows, is boundaries is ability to tell your partner no and have your no respected. But it's also the ability to hear your partner say yes. Yes for support. Yes for cooperation. Yes for understanding and sensitivity. And if those things are not present, then obviously the marriage is breaking down and could lead to divorce. And then the last thing I think that is a major reason for divorce is major boundary violations. So this would be things like infidelity, domestic violence, and what I would say are unaddressed substance abuse and mental health issues. It's very hard to be in a relationship with someone who refuses to address their substance abuse, who refuses to get help for depression or anxiety or some other, major mental health issue.
I think it's interesting, Pierre, when you're mentioning the yes part. So much of that is like respecting boundaries of no, but I think the yes to support. I mean, I think that's just another way of like looking at it that we don't think about. I think that's a really great point. I kind of have a follow-up question on that that's similar. So kind of some of those issues that you talked about or problems that those couples are facing who might be considering divorce, do you have any advice for how they can work through those to save their marriage?
So, first of all, I would say I'd recommend that a couple seek professional help as soon as possible. As with any other problem, you think about you have a toothache. The longer you wait, the more painful and the more costly it is going to be to address that toothache. And in fact, it could result in losing the tooth. So this is another example, marital issues that are not addressed. And the longer that you wait to address them, the more difficult, the more costly they're going to be to resolve. And in fact, it could be that you address the issue too late and it's impossible to save your marriage. So seek professional help as soon as possible. The other thing is, this is something that I really encourage at the beginning of the process. When I first sit down with a couple, I very often give them this assignment, Shelley, and it's 3 questions. And I tell them not to do this exercise together because they'll probably get into a fight when they try it together. But it's 3 questions. And the first thing is to really ask themselves whether they really want to continue to be married to their partner. Now, the question is not, do you love your partner? Do you believe in marriage? You don't want to have a divorce like you grew up in? You want to stay together for the children? No. The real issue is, do you want to stay married to your partner? And if the answer is no, then I don't know that therapy is going to be helpful. And or if you have a partner that is not willing to continue to be married, then again the process is not, therapy is not going to help. So ask yourself whether you really want to continue to be married to your partner. And second, this is something that people should think about before marriage, and very often they don't. In fact, I recommend a book that newer couples or engaged couples read called "What Did You Expect?" Because so often marriage is full of disillusionment because we don't clearly state what our expectations are. So the second question is, what do you want your marriage to look like? What are you expecting in terms of your marriage, in terms of communication, in terms of finances, parenting, involvement with family, involvement with friends, work responsibilities, all these different things? What are you expecting?
And I'm going to go get that book here.
What's that?
I'm going to go get that book right now.
Yes. But you really want to make sure you're clear and honest with yourself and with your partner about what you want from your marriage. And then last is, what are you willing to do? Because this is the key part. You can say, I want to stay married, and this is what I know what exactly I want. And, my partner, they kind of want the same thing, which is very important. But what are you willing to do? Because you can want to be married and you can have a wonderful view of marriage, but if you're not willing to do the work, then again, you're going to find the process unhelpful. So I would also recommend, so that this is an exercise that's done, as a couple, but I mean, not together, but for the couple. And then you share your responses with each other. And again, my recommendation would be that this be done with a professional.
Yeah. Pierre, the toothache analogy is so perfect. I think that puts it into such great terms of visually understanding or, connecting that the sooner you do it, there's a better chance of solving it or fixing the tooth and having a nice, healthy tooth back there. It's also a good reminder for everyone to go to the dentist.
Right.
So kind of on the flip side, what are some signs that it might be time to consider divorce or separation?
So I would recommend that the order be switched. A separation would be a better thing to start with. And of course, some people are even afraid to separate because they think that automatically means that you're going to get a divorce. I actually have found that it can actually make things clearer about that you really do want to stay married. You don't want to be apart from your partner. You want to work things out. So I call it a therapeutic separation. So some signs I would say is, first of all, is if you or your partner are not willing to invest the time and the effort to make the changes necessary to restore your marriage, you might want to consider separation or divorce. The other thing is if your partner has committed a major boundary violation, like I said before, infidelity, if there's a substance abuse issue, something of that nature, or if they're not willing to address a substance abuse issue or a mental health issue, then you might want to consider, a divorce or a separation. In fact, many people come in because their partner told them, if we don't go to therapy, then we're going to separate and perhaps divorce. So if those two things are going on, then definitely I would recommend separation, considering moving towards separation or divorce. And then the last thing is if the home environment is toxic for you, for your spouse, or for your children, you might want to consider moving towards divorce. This idea of staying together, and I mean, I'm not talking about divorcing, I'm just saying staying in the same house. It can be incredibly painful to be around someone and not to talk to them, to not have any kind of communication with them. It can be very hurtful. Or if you're around someone and everything they say is negative, or it's a put down, or it's a slight or passive aggressive behavior, that's not healthy for anybody. It's not healthy for you, your partner, and definitely not your children. So those are definitely some things I would say to consider. Those are some warning signs where you might really want to have a conversation about, at the very least, separation, and then of course maybe divorce.
Those are great things to be aware of. I'm going to kind of change it a little bit. So I read an article recently that said men don't like to talk about divorce more so than women, or a lot of tough topics for that matter. Now, do you think that's accurate in your experience as a therapist? And if it is something you've noticed, why do you think that is?
So, of course, we're in Texas, so things are a little bit different, down here in the South than in Texas. But and of course, there are exceptions to everything. But I would say, in my experience, this is true. I think that in my view, there are significant differences between men and women in terms of what I would say, in terms of communication and what I would describe as emotional intelligence. So it's not that men don't know how they're feeling, although sometimes they have a hard time even identifying their feelings, but they definitely have difficulty, more likely to have difficulty with expressing their emotions, which can really, that inhibits vulnerability and inhibits, intimacy, because you're not able to be present and to connect with one another on that emotional level. Now here's in terms of the reasons. I don't want to be emphatic about these reasons. Is it biological? Is it cultural? Honestly, I don't know. I think you could make a case for either or both. What I do know is that couples need to be able to talk about these tough issues. And unfortunately, the thing that I have found is unfortunately many people wait too long to even address these topics.
Yeah, I think it's such a, I think you're saying there's exceptions to everything. It's not just that men cannot talk about their feelings, but maybe it is, from what you've seen at least, can be more difficult for them to put into words what they're feeling. And I imagine that can be difficult, especially maybe if you're with your partner is someone who is very into expressing themselves or very good at it. I imagine there can be some headbutting or conflict there of maybe not understanding why the other person is struggling to express themselves.
Exactly. And they might take that personally instead of kind of thinking, oh, they don't want to talk to me, and maybe giving their partner a chance and say, might be really difficult for them, not just because they're men, but because of their culture, their background, their upbringing. So
yeah, no, I think that's so true. Like looking at the whole picture there. What are some normal things for someone to feel or go through when experiencing a divorce that they may not expect?
So, I actually talk a lot about grief and loss for couples who are considering a divorce. Now, you might think, well, people are going to start grieving after a divorce. No, I've there's the classic book on death and dying, which was written by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, about the stages of grief. is actually describing what's called precipitory grief. And this is the process of grief that occurs before you lose the loved one, the job, the marriage, whatever, the home, whatever it might be, because you can grieve different things. So a lot of couples actually come into my office and Shelley, they are already grieving the end of their marriage. Now, they might not be able to articulate that, but they're going through these stages. Well, if you know the 5 stages of grief, there's denial, there's anger, there's bargaining, there's depression, and then there's acceptance. So denial very often is like a couple, couple will come in and one will say, "Oh my gosh, it's terrible. I don't think we're going to make it." And then the other one will say, "Oh no, it's not that bad." So they're obviously in that denial stage. They're not ready to really acknowledge that their marriage is in serious jeopardy. And of course, there's anger, and this is one that we definitely see a lot of. And anger all around, anger towards your partner, anger towards yourself, anger towards maybe if there's another person involved that contributed to the issues. And then there's the bargaining, and this is so I try to be careful about not making assumptions, but sometimes couples come in and it has gone past the time when they're going to be able to address their marital issues, but they come to therapy as a form of bargaining. So that's something that I'm always trying to monitor and make sure that they really are invested in the process and that they really are willing to work, and not at just some grasping of straws to try to resurrect or save their marriage. And of course, then depression. You're going to be sad. You're going to be sad, even if you might experience some relief. Well, I'm going to be out of this situation. I'm not happy, and you will experience some depression, even if it has to do with, man, I failed and I couldn't make this last, or I made the wrong choice or whatever. And then the last stage would be acceptance, where you're not happy about the divorce, but you're ready to move on with the rest of your life. So,
yeah, I think those are really helpful. My last question is going to be, I don't want to leave people on that, the negative or the sadness that can come with it. So what are some things you could suggest to those couples who may be going through a rough patch, but still want to save their marriage? So it's like end on a positive note.
Sure. So couples, when they come in, they ask me all the time after they tell me their story, they go, "Well, what do you think? Is there any hope?" And I tell people, that I wouldn't be a therapist, and particularly a marriage and family therapist, if I didn't believe that there was hope for couples who are experiencing severe conflict. Now, I never guarantee anybody, because I can't guarantee
Right.
that this is going to work. And even the most skilled therapist may not be able to help a couple. But this is what I firmly believe. And I've been practicing now, 14, 15 years. And I really believe that many marriages could be saved if both individuals, first of all, are willing to look at their contribution to the conflict. If you are willing to start with yourself, and I'm not talking about blaming yourself for your marital problems, I'm talking about, how have I contributed to the conflict with my husband or with my wife? And that's actually a very empowering thing, because as if you're married, you cannot change your partner. you can try, but you're going to fail. Your partner is going to change because they want to change. And so
Right.
but if you look at yourself, then that empowers you, because you can change yourself. The other thing is, I think this is very important. You're going to need to ask for, and you're going to need to give forgiveness. You cannot move forward in marriage by holding grudges and resentment over the head of your partner. No one can function under that. I don't care how much they love you, they will not be able to function under that weight. And so you have to be willing to forgive, and of course to ask for forgiveness as well, which is acknowledging the wrong that you did. I think if both are willing to work, and I mean really work, to learn healthy ways to communicate and resolve conflicts, that's going to be very helpful. And if they attempt to be sensitive to their partner's needs, sensitive and meet their partner's needs. There's a great book. So many people are aware of it. The 5 Love Languages. That's a great book for couples to learn how to better try to meet your partner's needs. And then the last one, I use this word often, and I've had clients repeat it to me, I'm glad, is the word grace. Grace is this concept. It can have a religious connotation, but I think it applies to everyone, regardless if you're religious or not. Is this idea of unmerited favor, unmerited kindness, and if we are willing to show grace and patience and understanding to our partners as they work to face their their failings, to face their deficits and their weaknesses, and to work hard, if we're willing to be patient with them, that's going to go a long way to saving and restoring and very often making your marriage stronger than it was before. So
I think that's awesome. I think we can all use that in any aspect of our life. Grace, we can extend that, especially during this time, to everyone we come into contact with in any relationship. But Pierre, thank you so much for talking with us today about this topic and sharing your insights with us. I just want to let all of you know, if you or someone that you know is going through a divorce or having relationship struggles, that you can make an appointment with a Family Houston counselor, such as Pierre, by calling 713-861-4849. So Pierre, thank you again.
Sure. Thank you.